All right, welcome back to another episode of the Batar Project. Today I'm joined by the amazing Bek Antonucci. Hope I said that right.
Bek Antonucci. It's cool. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to jump on and do this podcast with me.
Pleasure. I'm super excited to be here. I love what you stand for and I love what the podcast means and essentially the stigma that you're crushing all around the world at the moment. I think it's incredible.
Awesome. I really appreciate that. And I've come the last few days, I've really looked at your Instagram and I really love what you're doing in crushing the stigma in, around herpes and all that kind of stuff. It's amazing what you're doing as well.
Thank you. Whenever I think about not doing it, I know that there's a past version of me that was silenced in pain, emotional pain and shame. And I know that just because I'm free of it, there's a million other Becks in the world, 25-year-old Becks in the world that think that she's unworthy. And that just fuels me to want to keep sharing.
And all it takes is for that person to see one of your videos and then make them realize, all right, I'm going to step out. I'm going to disclose what's going on in my life. And ultimately it changes their life.
I had a man reach out to me today and he sent me quite a lengthy DM and he said, "Thank you so much for everything that you've said to my girlfriend. You have changed her life." And I said, "Oh, thank you very much. I love, it's so beautiful to hear and receive that. It kind of continues to fuel your fire." I was like, "I don't even know who your girlfriend is." And he was like, "I don't even think she's actually ever reached out, but she watches all of your stuff every single day. And you've significantly impacted how she feels about herself and has changed her beliefs just from watching you." And I was like, that makes me feel so happy to know that that person hasn't even worked with me, but heard my voice and that supported her on her own growth and healing journey. And it just excites me.
It's amazing. And it's the power of social media when used correctly.
Exactly. When used correctly. Absolutely.
Now, we'll start with what's something you're grateful for today.
I'm grateful for my thriving health. I'm grateful for the ocean and I'm grateful for my boyfriend because he's a beautiful, beautiful man.
That's amazing. And for all the listeners, I did have your boyfriend on the podcast, Jake Ward. That was a great episode as well. Little power
Yeah, it
couple
was
going
really
on
cool.
here.
Yeah, he's amazing, amazing man. He's really cool.
How long have you guys been together for?
Since September 2020.
Okay,
so we've been in each other's lives. Like I've known of him for around 4 years, but we started dating in 2020.
That's awesome. And I love what you guys are kind of building there. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Well, let's jump straight in. Let's go back to, I guess, you sent me a little overview of your story. Let's go back to high school. You were getting bullied. You went to a prestigious girls' high school, if I'm correct.
I went to a private all-girls school in Perth, and high school was 5 of the worst years of my life. And I was bullied really, really horrifically to the point of attempted suicide. I attempted to take my own life at 14. And that's really been the event that has that was really where all the seed of self-doubt and the limiting self-worth was really planted. And I created the story that I will never fit in anywhere in the world, that women are emotionally and physically unsafe, that no one will ever like me, that I'm so unworthy. And if I was different than who I am, if I looked a different way, said something different, if I was just not me, maybe I could be liked, loved, and accepted in this world. And it must be me, and I'm the problem.
What kind of things are people saying to you? Because it's not like you're an attractive woman. I don't get it.
I know, you know what? It's funny that you say that because I even found a photo of me and thank you. I found a photo of me from when I was 14 and I looked at it. I was like, oh, it was beautiful. I had this belief because the girls were so nasty that I must have been this horrendous person. And they were calling me, it was my best friend in high school turned against me one day and she decided to turn the entire year group against me as well. And they would scream 2 specific words at me. They would scream at me, "You're disgusting." And they would scream at me, "You're rank." And based on my parenting, the way my parents would parent, they told me, if you have nothing good to say, don't say it at all and be the bigger person. So the first time she yelled and screamed these things at me, instead of approaching her, I turned my back. I was like, I'm going to be the bigger person. But at 14, we're not emotionally equipped to be like, actually, no, these words don't mean anything about me. Every time I turned my back and walked away and I could hear these words being screamed, I would think maybe I am rank, maybe I am disgusting. And that was my subconscious narrative on repeat. So much so, they screamed it so badly that I wouldn't get up. I was very studious. I wouldn't get up at assembly to receive awards because I was scared that they would scream at me in front of the entire school. I wouldn't go to homeroom. I was on every single sports team. I wouldn't go to homeroom because I felt like I wasn't safe. So I was on every sport team, soccer, badminton, volleyball, so that I wouldn't have to sit by myself and I wouldn't have these girls scream at me.
Wow. High school can be a very terrible place for some people.
And I'm really glad that social media didn't exist back then.
Oh, it's
I'm
even
really
worse
grateful.
now. Holy shit.
You know, I often sit and ponder this when I have children. If and when I have children, what will it be like for them? Because had I have had a mobile phone, I don't know if I would have survived. If I had have gone home and not been able to escape school and see something be put up on social media that isn't directly about me because my name's not in it, but everyone knows it's about me, and everyone like and comment it, the impact that could have on a young child, 12, 13, 14-year-old, female or male, that could be life ending.
It's scary to think. And that's why I guess suicide rates are so high, especially in teenagers, 'cause you just can't escape. You go to school, you get bullied, you go home, it's all over social media. How do you
Mhm.
escape from that?
I don't know. So I think as I get older, more mature, and I come to consider children, that will definitely be a consideration and something as well.
So you got bullied throughout your whole high school, and then did you attempt to take your life, or was just the thought there?
No, I attempted to take my life.
Okay. And
Mhm.
obviously you survived. What was the next step after that? Any like seeing psychologists or
No, I just wanted to get out of high school.
yeah.
I thought that the way out, actually, there was one thing that did happen. I went on a family holiday to Bali and we were in the Dynasty Hotel. And it was a very family friendly hotel. And we were talking about different suburbs in Perth. And I heard someone talking about a suburb that was nearby mine. And I engaged in the conversation. It was a young boy. He was the same age as me. And we ended up living a suburb away from each other and we became best friends. And he started inviting me to a lot of things with him. And I started hanging out with his social circle. And I was really accepted. And everyone was really nice to me, boys and girls. And I think that was my saving grace of outside of Mercedes College, I will be accepted. Not all people are the same. Not only like I'm the high school that I'm in is not the entire world. And outside of this world, I will find my people who will like and love me and be kind to me. So that was my first step out of where I was. And I knew that I just had to get through high school.
I think it's like that for a lot of people. You go through high school and you're like, oh wow, this is my whole life. Like all these people are bullying me. But once you finish school, you realize, holy shit, there's a whole world out there. And you're probably not going to see most of those people again anyway. So who cares?
And I mean, it's easy in retrospect and in hindsight now, but when you're a 14-year-old and school is everything and that world is the world that exists for you, it's hard to think like there's this big world where people will be nice and you'll find people that are like-minded and it'll be fun and it will be wild and exciting and scary and uncertain, but great. Like when you're 14, you just think if I don't fit here, out there seems so much scarier. So I'm grateful for my experience.
Yeah,
But I can understand why a 14-year-old feels stuck and trapped.
100%. And do you think going through that, it's made you a stronger person leaving high school?
Absolutely. That's why I love Jake so much. I love the underdog. I love the person starting from zero and just rising and becoming this incredible human. Jake's got a very similar story too. He was bullied. So I feel like now I'm such a stand for things that people who are maybe shyer or less courageous at the moment, like the courage exists, they just haven't turned it online. I'm willing to be a stand for the woman or the man that is suffering in shame because of herpes stigma. I'm willing to be a voice for spiritual and personal development as a way to free ourselves mentally and support our positive, thriving mental health. I'm willing to be a stand for literally anything that feels true for me, that other people, it might feel true for them, but they're scared to use their voice. So it's really the positive gain is I'm empowered, I'm stronger, I'm more willing to use my voice. I'm not scared of the bully. Like I will stand up in the face of the bully knowing that my intention is pure and I'm good and I'm actually worthy and I love myself and I deserve to use my voice. And I have such a beautiful community of people around me who will support me and love me as well.
That's amazing. Now, was there abusive relationship in high school? Was that after high school?
So that was after. like I said, in terms of the women, I associated women with being unsafe. I looked at them as emotionally unsafe and physically unsafe. You're going to taunt me, I'm going to attempt to harm myself. So now I am not safe. And so then the natural next step was perhaps men are safe. And I ended up dating someone. And after 2.5 years, there were some little incidents in the lead up to it, not huge ones, but some little incidents that led up to the end result. And he punched me with a closed fist and knocked me unconscious. And that's how our relationship came to an end. So that was the next significant life event that happened, where all of a sudden I was like, okay, women are unsafe, emotional and physical harm. And now I associate men with being unsafe, emotional and physical harm. He was my only boyfriend, and I didn't have boyfriends in high school. That now I was existing in the world as a 19-year-old who looked at women and men as both unsafe. Both are going to attempt to emotionally harm me. Both will physically harm me. What do I do, and where do I go from here?
Where did you go from there?
I went to the gym.
Yeah.
I went to the gym. I felt very, very emotionally weak. I thought, if people are trying to harm me, and the thing that I was most ashamed about is, even though he hit me, knocked me unconscious, there'd also been an event where he punched his fist through my car window in a car park and left me in the rain with a broken window. And I didn't know. I knew that this was so bad. I knew it was so shameful. I knew that it was so wrong. And I knew that partners are not meant to hit their partners. And yet the truth of me said, I just want my boyfriend back. And I was really embarrassed at that. And I wouldn't tell anyone. I didn't want anyone to know, I just want my boyfriend back, even though he's done this to me. So I thought, if I'm emotionally weak, what can I do to be strong? How can I gain some kind of strength so that people won't hurt and harm me? And I went to the gym, and I got a diet, and I got a training plan. I got a personal trainer, and she was female, and I felt really safe with her. And I started exercising. But what that started was a really healthy obsession with food, fitness, obsessive dieting, sports modeling, competing, which led to 10 years of disordered eating, binge eating, laxative abuse, and body dysmorphia.
Wow. So when you got this, I guess, strong physique, did people start to look at you differently and I guess treat you better?
Yeah, so that's exactly what happened. I became really addicted to external validation based on my 14-year-old lens view of the world. I decided the way that I looked meant that people won't like and love me. Then I went to the gym, changed my body, and all of a sudden men were being really nice to me. Men were asking me out. Women were inviting me places. I had plans every single weekend. And I didn't realize consciously at the time. I know now, after all the study I've done, I was like, wow, because of the way that I look, I've changed my appearance. And now people like, love, and accept me. People want to know me. People want to be my friend. And what I didn't realize was I associated being liked, loved, and accepted with being safe. And I felt like if I portray a certain image, if I look a certain way, if I curate my body a certain way, people won't try and hurt me. And that's how that addiction really stemmed to disordered eating.
Yeah. So just chasing that external validation, you just wanted people to continue, I guess, liking you and treating you better. And then ultimately eating disorders. What eating disorders did you get?
Super restrictive dieting. Like, I don't know how much I weigh now, maybe 63 kilos.
Yeah.
I was 47 kilos at one stage.
Wow.
And I'm quite short. And then I would fluctuate all the way up to 70, which doesn't feel like a lot. And it's not the number, it's the fluctuation. It's a down and up, down and up. It's a eating nothing for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, and then compulsive binging for days and days and days on end. I would force the doctors to prescribe me with, I forgot what it's called, a medication for obese people to lose weight, because I told my doctor that I would lose my job if I didn't lose weight. I would get the doctor to prescribe me with Dexies for ADHD so that I could attempt to lose weight. I would inject clenbuterol so I could lose weight, because I was so desperate. I would exercise from 1 to 4 hours a day to lose weight. I was so desperate to have this body because my worthiness was attached to it. And every time that I gained weight again, I went in that binge eating laxative abuse spiral. Like, I would wake up, I would drink or eat bottles of laxatives and wake up in the bathroom, pass out in my own vomit, and like pass out against the wall. I was really abusing and harming my body. And the reason I was so desperate for this appearance was, without it, I felt like no one would ever love me. And so I needed it. And that's why it was always slipping. Now I have such a healthy relationship with food without even trying, because I know that my worthiness isn't in my appearance. So I have a beautiful exterior and a beautiful appearance, and I have beautiful, thriving health and a really healthy relationship with food, but I don't need my appearance to get love. And that's the difference.
How did you go about changing that? I've never understood how someone can be, 40 kilos and still think they're overweight. I don't understand it. And I guess I will never will, but yeah,
Yeah.
Huh.
I love that you asked that question, because a past version of me would look at me now and think that I need to go and eat a salad. But I see myself as so beautiful and I love my body now. Whereas when I was 47 kilos, I was rake thin. I still thought I would tell myself every day I'm fat. I would pinch and I would prod, and my camera reel on my iPhone was filled with selfies looking at my fat where I could lose weight. I would look through every single mirror. I'd pinch at my cheek, I'd pinch at my underarms, pinch on my back. I was always touching, always inspecting, always looking, and always saying that what I wasn't good enough and I needed to be better than what I currently was.
Can I ask you, when you were that weight, were you still getting those external validations, or did it go back to how it was?
When I was 47 kilos?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like the gym industry can be super healthy and also can be quite toxic. Every time you lose weight, everyone comments and commends. So every time I was dieting again, whether it was for a comp or a photo shoot, I always had something planned, because if I had something planned, I'd work towards it. I'd be like, I'm on a 12-week diet. I'm on a 16-week this. And every time I started losing the weight, loads of people would start commenting. And then when the weight would stop or start piling back on, people would comment less, and I would notice, and then I would be in my spiral, and then I would set myself up and be like, okay, Monday I'll be good again. Then all the comments will start again. So it was it's like temporary validation is an addiction, just like external validation, is an addiction. And I believe it's just like drugs, just like alcohol, just like lollies, just like sugar. It's a hit. And so you could say, hey, Beck, you look really great. And I'd be like, oh my God, Nick said that thing, hit. But then I need the next person to give me the compliment as well, hit. And as soon as it ends, I'll go and do something else, or I'll have to get more and more and more of what I am, or not what I am, to get more of those hits. Like I went from my body to different boyfriends that had certain status attached to them, to attempting to be a socialite, to buying a really big car, to getting a house on the beach, to working for a job title, to starting a brand. And none of it was from embodiment. It was all from, I need people to like, love, and accept me. What can I do to get you to acknowledge me?
Yeah. When you were going through that, was the ideal body image like the Victoria's Secret models and that back then?
It was the Fitspo gym girl.
Okay, yeah.
I wanted to be a sports model with the ripped abs and the shoulders and the quads, and I was the gym girl. The chicken and broccoli and the sweet potato.
Oh, yuck.
I know. So boring and bland. Like healthy, I really value my health, but we can eat a little bit more than just chicken and broccoli.
Yeah, I commend people who who stick to that, but yeah, I like more of a balanced food in my life.
Yeah, same.
Now, was there a breast surgery along the way there overseas that went wrong?
Yeah, you're a really good listener. So at 22, I was looking at all the Fitspos online, and I was having a really challenging time with my food. I was having a really challenging time with my body, and I was just looking for solutions, whether it was a diet or a personal trainer or a gym or a style of training. Maybe I'll be a boxer, maybe I'll be a power lifter, maybe I'll be a gym girl, maybe a CrossFitter. Surely something is the solution to my disordered eating. I didn't understand that the disordered eating stemmed from the rejection from the girls at school and the rejection from the partner. Because I wasn't facing off with those thoughts, I was just trying to band-aid it with the body. And so the next solution was, well, every Fitspo woman on the internet has fake boobs. That's my next solution. And I remember prior to going overseas, everyone said to me, Beck, this isn't going to be the answer. I know you're searching for something, and this isn't going to be the solution. If you're feeling like you don't have a healthy relationship with food, this is not going to fix it. And I said, yes. I'm like, yeah, I know that. But underlying that, there was a hope. I know they say that, but I wonder, will I come back so happy with myself that it will fix everything? And the funny thing is, I came back with a horror overseas breast surgery. So the photos are online and they're quite horrific. And that put me even deeper into where I was. And I didn't realize that I was never meant to come back with perfect breasts. The universe was saying to me, like, little slaps in the face. When will you listen? Little slaps in the face. When will you start to love yourself? Little slaps in the face. When will you start to love yourself for who you are, not what you can potentially be for other people? So that was my next journey.
Now, you said it went wrong. What actually went wrong?
So I got implants, but because of my journey with weight loss and then gain and constantly fluctuating, before I had breasts and before I'd lost any weight, I was actually a very naturally voluptuous girl. So when you lose a lot of weight and you've had breast tissue before, you have essentially breast sacs where the breast fat was. And so I wanted big breasts, and they were one size bigger than what I naturally had before I'd lost all the weight. And I have quite a small chest. I'm actually quite a small framed person. And so they said that was a really big implant for what could fit within me. So they had to cut a new breast fold. So essentially, if you imagine a woman's breast fold and then they cut essentially a centimeter under a new scar, then they put the implant in. So I had my old breast fold, the new scar, and then my body doesn't naturally build scar tissue. A lot of women's bodies does the reverse. So the other women can get capsular contracture where it goes rock hard. Mine does the opposite, no scar tissue built around the implant. And so my implants drifted from my chest downwards. And as they dropped down, they pulled all the scarring with it. So now you could see implant, a new scar that he had cut, and the scar had ripped. It started pulling down as the implant dropped, and the old breast fold. So it kind of looked like, it can be called double bubble, but it kind of looked worse than that. It looked like 3 breasts, 3 distorted breasts.
Wow.
Yeah, there's an image of it on Instagram. I actually lived in denial for a few years. I never acknowledged how bad it was until a few years later when I decided to get corrective surgery, and I turned around to my boyfriend at the time and I said to him, I think I'm going to get my boobs fixed. And he'd never brought anything up with me, bless him, for never saying anything because I never spoke about it. But he said, if you feel like you're ready and that's something that you want to do, I support you. And it wasn't until I got them fixed and I looked at the before and after photos that I realized how horrific they were.
Definitely got botched then. What country did you go to? Thailand?
Philippines.
Oh, Philippines. Oh.
I went to Philippines. I've had friends and family members who've gone to Thailand. I think it's obviously based on my experience of surgery in a very different situation now due to COVID, based on my experience, I would recommend women, if that's the path they want to travel, to have thought about it for every day for 2 years and been a crystal clear yes every day for 2 years, and B, just put in a lot of research. I would stay in Australia. That would always be my recommendation. But I also have family and friends that have gone overseas to Thailand. I feel like if you're a flat chest and you can just shove implants in, it's a little bit of an easier surgery than what mine was. But stay in Oz and stay safe.
Bloody expensive though, isn't it?
So my breasts now, and they're only one size bigger than they ever started. I had size D breasts from age 14. They've ended up with loss of income because I've always worked for myself, time off work, 2 surgeries. They've cost me about $40,000 Australian.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot for a pair of boobs.
Up for a pair of boobs that I already had as well.
Oh, God. Yeah, I don't understand why a lot of women get breast surgeries and stuff like that. I understand maybe if you're flat chested and you want a pair of boobs, but if you already have perfectly good boobs, I don't get why you have to get bigger. It's just a lot of times I think it's for social media purposes. And
I love that, and it doesn't really matter. Like I say to my clients, you can play with all of the toys of life. You can play with the internet, social media, plant medicines. Like I love magic mushrooms. I used to do them every Monday on the beach near my house to meditate and really to deep dive into my subconscious. Even drugs, alcohol, sex, cars, everything, money, everything is a toy. The only time it's a problem is when it has more control over you than you have control over it, when it's a vice or when you're using it to get something. So if you don't feel worthy without it and you feel like you need it to feel worthy, you're literally handing your power away. So if I feel like Jake can only love me because of my boobs, well, that's not love. That's literally handing my power away, that my partner is only going to love me based on the way that I look. I know that my partner loves me for who I am as a woman, what I embody as a woman, my strengths and my weaknesses. I don't need to be anything to get him to love me. And so that's just what I share to my women when it comes to wanting surgery, wanting Botox, I'm not really a fan of the lips, and the Botox and the nails and the lashes. It's not me. It's not who I am as a person. And when it's from I deserve this, I love it, it's what makes me feel like really great. Awesome. If you feel like you're not worthy without it, that's where I feel like it's the problem.
Yeah, 100%. You got to want it for yourself, not for external validation.
Exactly.
Now, so how old were you? 22 when you got the breast surgery?
22 when I got the breast surgery, 25 when I had them corrected.
Okay. And now I guess we'll move into the next part of your journey is herpes.
Yeah.
You want to kind of run through how that all came about?
Sure. So I feel like the underlying philosophy of my journey is avoiding emotional pain only further manifests pain onto our physical path. So there was a version of me that was like, why am I attracting all this bad stuff? The girls that bullied me, the partner that assaulted me, the breasts that went wrong, the eating disorders, but everything was just a band-aid of trying to avoid facing off with the uncomfortable thoughts of, why didn't those girls just like me? Why wasn't I good enough just to be loved? And I was just trying to avoid. So my final pain point was the herpes diagnosis. So the partner that I was telling you about with the breasts, the boyfriend, we didn't connect sexually, and we'd been together for 2.5 years, and I really loved him. And I really thought he was the man that I was going to marry, and we just didn't connect, and I didn't feel loved by him, and I didn't feel desired by him, and I didn't feel wanted by him. And I worked really hard on that aspect of our relationship, and we just couldn't communicate around it. We couldn't see eye to eye. So I ended up essentially cheating on him, and I cheated on him with a friend, and I broke up with my boyfriend the next day. And that friend gave me an STI, which was herpes. So that was a really eye-opening, painful, it's probably the most painful thing I've ever been through in my life.
Wow. Now, I didn't even really know what herpes was. I thought it was just like cold sores and you put cream on it and then it goes away.
Yeah.
And I did a bit of research and I was like, holy shit, like you got this for the rest of your life.
So herpes, it's the herpes simplex virus. It's a virus. It's just like, it's a similar strain as the chickenpox virus. Once you contract it, you do have it for life. It doesn't mean it has to affect you for life. You don't need to get symptoms for life. It's not something that affects me. Are you there?
Yeah, I just cut out there for a second.
Oh.
All right. So the last bit you were saying is it doesn't affect you.
No, except for the thought about it. So I'm a very pro natural health kind of person. I look after my internal world and my external world. So while, yes, you test positive for it for life, and I'm still searching for, I believe that maybe spiritually and through the power of the mind, you can heal it, but that's really neither here nor there. I feel like the true healing is facing off with the stigma and learning to empower yourself through natural health to really face off with the herpes virus.
Okay. So it's a virus, but what is it? What kind of side effects come along with that?
It's just like you said, like cold sores. It's a cold sore virus, but there's cold sore virus that you can get on your face, which is HSV1. And there's cold sore virus that you can get on your genitals, which is HSV2. But because it's sexual health related, there's a lot of stigma attached to HSV2.
Okay. And what, do they just come and go, or do you manage it with
So
diet?
for me, I manage it with diet. Everyone's very different. They say that 70% of people who test positive for the virus are asymptomatic, which means that you don't get outbreaks. There's someone like me. I had my first outbreak 7 years ago. And then I had, which was quite horrific. Your first one's really horrific. And then I had one at the end of last year, which was my first one in 7 years, because I managed my body naturally through health, high quality drinking water, managing my internal and external world. And then I was really, really, really stressed. I opened my mobile phone one day and I had a group of women essentially attack me. All my posts had all of this hate on them. My inbox had a load of hate, and my special request box had some death threats. And I got so stressed. I thought it was a really nasty experience to go through. And even though it was just words on the internet, because it brought up the story of the wounded, bullied 14-year-old, she felt under attack. And it was the same somatic response that I felt when I was 14 happened. And I could feel this little pain on my vagina the next day, and it felt like I'd scratched myself. And then I lifted my leg up, and hopefully this isn't too much info for you, but I lifted my leg up, I'm in the mirror, and I checked it out, and I was like, whoa, I think that's a herpes outbreak. And so it was just like a tiny, tiny little cold sore on my lip, which is essentially the cold sore virus. And I manage that through natural health as well.
Yeah. It's crazy what stress can bring up, eh? After 7 years
Oh,
and going through stress and it just comes back again.
do you know what? I was saying this to someone else. I was saying my body, the human body is such an incredible tool, vessel. I can't even give her words to acknowledge how amazing she is, that she became so stressed, and I believe became so stressed to support me in 2021. My intention is to heal the wound, the sister wound, and heal that bullied 14-year-old. She was so stressed and so worried that someone was going to hurt and harm her, that she had a physical response that brought on that outbreak. And instead of being in shame or upset or mad or disgusted with myself, I just said, like, my body is a walking miracle. That's incredible that my body will speak to me and tell me when I need to take better care of myself. I just fell more in love with my body than I really ever had.
Yeah, and it's very good at letting you know if something's going wrong. You just got to be self-aware to realize that.
Yeah, I agree.
I did a podcast recently with this girl who was in an abusive relationship, and she broke her back as well. And
Oh,
as
wow.
soon as that relationship ended, her back stopped hurting. Like all that stress was just let off her. And it was like the first time in months that she didn't feel pain. It was amazing.
That's amazing. I know when I'm stressed as well, I start getting nightmares, like a little kid getting really, really scary nightmares. So I will always ask myself, like, what's going on in my world right now? What do I need to manage? What am I not getting enough of? What do I need to get more of? What am I getting too much of? So I feel like our body we are always getting feedback from the external world, from the internal world, from our body. If we're willing to listen, it's just such a beautiful guide as to how we can live a more fulfilled and joyful life.
100%. Now, going back when you first got diagnosed, you denied it for how many years did you deny it for?
I denied it for 4 years. I lived in Syria. I didn't want anyone to know. So I cheated on my boyfriend and I broke up with him the next day. And I didn't get the diagnosis until probably 3 weeks later. So I was going through mourning the loss of the man that I thought I was going to marry. I was going through feeling so guilty and remorseful that I actually got pushed so far to the point that I cheated. And then 3 weeks later, I was experiencing this pain and went to the doctors. And she told me, oh, darling, I remember her saying it to me. She goes, oh, darling, you tested positive for herpes, or you have herpes. And she printed out an A4 sheet and she handed it to me. Now I went to a private all-girls school. I'd only slept with boyfriends. I'd slept with less than a handful of men. I didn't know what STIs were. So when she said you have herpes, I was just like, I don't even know what that is. I've never had to worry about STIs. And I said to her, I've only been with boyfriends, can't be me. And she was like, no, it definitely is you. And I was like, okay, give me the script. What do I need? Is it an injection? Is it a pill? What do I need to get rid of this thing? And that's when she said, you have it for life. And I remember just feeling like my whole world had crashed and not knowing where to turn, not knowing who to tell. I went to the friend that I'd slept with and I told him and believed that it came from him. And he said he was sorry. And he said that he loved me and that he wanted to be with me and that he'll love me through this. And he accepts me and I'm still beautiful and sexy and all the things. And I just remember feeling so trapped, so stuck. And I remember thinking, well, I'm stuck with this guy now because I'm the only woman in Australia who tests positive for herpes. Who will ever love me again? I'm ruined. My sex life is ruined. And I've just literally ruined my whole life. And I stayed in denial for 4 years.
Wow. So you stayed with him out of the fear of bearing to tell other people?
I stayed with him out of safety. So I was like, well, he accepts me. He loves me. He says I'm beautiful. He treats me well. I'll stay. Like, that's all good things. And deep underlying that, I'm so fearful that I'm ever going to have to tell anyone about this. And I don't want anyone to know. I had two best girlfriends at the time. We were like sisters. We did everything together, lived together. I would not tell them because my fear was, what if in a few years' time we're not friends or we have a fight and they tell someone who tells someone and all of Perth could know this disgusting, awful thing about me. And so I stayed with him for a year in fear. And I was waiting for the outbreak to come back as well. The first outbreak can be quite horrific for some people, for most people. And it was super painful. And I didn't realize that not all of them were like that. And so I just feared that this horrible thing was coming for me again. And when it didn't, and then life just went back to normal, like obviously my past partner wasn't involved, but life went back to normal and I was partying and my boyfriend treated me really well at the time and I was having fun with my friends, in the back of my mind waiting for the outbreak to come and it didn't. I just decided, well, it's not here. I don't get outbreaks. No one knows except for the current boyfriend. No one ever has to know this about me. I didn't go back to that doctor because I didn't even want her to know. And I just decided I'm going to deny this for life. No one will ever know this about me. I stayed with him for a year and then broke up with him. Stayed with him on and off. I cheated on him quite a lot. I was really mad at him. I was really, really angry at him. I felt like he'd ruined me. He'd taken my freedom, that he didn't deserve my respect. Then I started partying a lot and cheating on him quite a lot.
You mentioned cheating. How does having herpes affect your sex life? Because doesn't it, I guess, transfer over or?
So no, not necessarily. There is risk. There's so many things that you can do to manage it through natural health. Some people take antivirals that they say can reduce the impact of transmission to less than 2%. To be totally honest, and I share this journey openly, I was so angry at men. I literally hated them that I didn't care. I didn't get outbreaks and I would just I would take ecstasy, MDMA, cocaine. And then on the weekend, if I picked up a guy and slept with him, I just didn't care. I decided that men deserved it. I was mad at them. When I would sleep with a man and he didn't ask or to use a condom, I would be so mad at him. I would think to myself, you don't care where you've been. You don't care who you slept with yesterday or last week or what you could do to me. And I was like, I just hate you. It was a really toxic mindset to live in and to attract men in from. But it was a really important part of my healing journey.
Wow. How did you build up the courage to, I guess, tell other people?
So, and I feel like that journey that I went on, the reason that I talk about it, even though it could receive a lot of judgment and it could be perceived as wrong, I feel like it's such a natural part of everyone's journey when they find out they test positive for an STI, like herpes. In Australia, it's not on the notifiable infection list. So it's not technically classed as illegal, even though in terms of your morals, it might feel wrong. I never shame anyone into disclosure. I really feel like you have to feel ready to do it. And it's a really important process for you and no one can make you do it. But after 4 years of behaving that way, I started to feel really bad and guilt started to arrive. And I started to think to myself, I'm literally a part of the problem. I can't blame men for testing positive for herpes. I was mad at my ex. I was like, if he'd have just met my needs sexually, I loved him so much, I never would have cheated. I was mad at the guy who gave it to me. And I was mad at men in general until I realized none of them are the reason why I'm in the situation that I'm in. For as long as I project responsibility out, I'm literally handing my power over. And I learned this through courses and workshops that I was doing. And I realized guilt was arriving and I was sitting there questioning myself, my behavior, my morals. And I thought to myself, if you're here to make an impact and you're treating people in the way that you've been treated, that you held so much anger around, how dare someone do this to you? And now you're potentially doing that to others. And I looked myself in the mirror and I said, you're a part of the problem. And that's okay, because that's your journey. You can't change what's happened up until now, but what are you going to do differently to be a part of the solution? And that's where I started doing all the inner work. I started going to workshops, courses, investing in mentors, finding out about self-love, self-discovery, forgiveness, how to own my mistakes, how to have clearing conversations, how to have uncomfortable conversations, how to sit down someone face to face and tell them I test positive for the herpes virus, and be able to hold that with power and be able to hold their response to the reaction and not take it personally and not make it mean something about me. And I decided the woman that I was being was not my higher self and it was time for change.
Do you know if you actually transmitted it to anyone else?
Not to my awareness, I have never been told, but also those 4 years was a very big party scene.
Yes.
So
didn't remember much of it.
I remember who the people were, and I remember I've never woken up next to someone and been like, who are you? I've never really enjoyed drunk sex, but just I feel the party scene as a whole, I think this definitely doesn't justify it, but there was definitely a part of me that used to think, I've been single up until Jake, I'd been single for 7 years. In 7 years, I had never got a call back from one person to say, hey, you should go and get tested. I test positive for so-and-so and I've slept with you in the past 6 months. So I feel like granted, the last 3 years I've been super honest. So it was 4 years of partying, 3 years of honesty. And since I've just started disclosing, no man's ever turned around and told me that I've transmitted it to them. But I think the point of that is I've sat down with them, I've shared it with them face to face. It's been their choice to be able to engage in sexual intimacy with me. And because there's no fear there and we both really value our health, it's not been something that we've had to face off with.
That's great. Like, it's great that you can be honest about it now and be able to share that, especially with people that you were sleeping with in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the point at which I decided that I was going to be super honest and never, ever sleep with someone out of integrity. And I had a friend at the time and we were hanging out and he said that he was interested in me and I was still scared to tell people. And I thought, I'm only going to tell someone if they really have to know. Like if we're going to have sex, then you have to know. But if you're just a friend, I don't want to just tell you for no reason. And he said that he was really interested in me. And he was going through a divorce. And I said to him, I think it's a bit soon. And I think I'm getting to the place where I want to start creating room for a relationship. And he said, well, I'm going through a divorce. I'm not going to be ready for one. And I said, okay, well, let's just stay friends. And he was like, so friends, no benefits? And I said, yes. Anyway, the next time we were hanging out, one thing led to another. We ended up having sex and I felt so terrible. And so I sat with it for a week and I was like, I have to share with him now. I have to go and tell him face to face. So I messaged him and said, I'd really love to speak. And I remember meeting at the beach and saying to him that I know that I said to you, I didn't want anything with you sexually unless this was going to lead somewhere. And a big part of that was because I actually test positive for the herpes virus. And it's important to me that I disclose to all sexual partners. And I'm really sorry that I didn't give you that empowered choice. And he gave me a kiss on the forehead and told me to not sweat the small stuff and asked me what the implications were for him and what that meant for him. And he went and got tested. But it really started to feel really good to start showing up in my integrity and give people the opportunity to choose me fully versus taking that from them.
Yeah. Tops to that guy. That's an amazing reaction to have to that.
He was really, really beautiful about it. He actually messaged me a few days later. Obviously, once you get onto Google Doctor, Google instills fear. Like the virus doesn't have to, pardon?
It's like a rabbit hole. You can end up anywhere.
Yeah. I always tell anyone that's asked me, like, what do you do when you disclose? I'm like, answer the questions for the person, like hold space and be like, I'm here to answer any of your questions. Don't send them to Google because Google Doctor is a really fearful place. And the herpes virus is nothing to fear. It's literally just a stigma. The one thing that he was upset about because he'd slept with a woman after me, he said to me, he was worried about harming her. He was worried that because I could have potentially given it to him, what if he'd given it to someone else without meaning to? So that's when he sent me quite an emotionally challenging message to sit with. And I was super upset for days, but he was just concerned for someone else.
Yeah.
He wasn't worried about himself. He's like, I don't care if I have it. Because if I have it back, it's all good, but I'm just worried that I give it to someone else without telling them.
Yeah. Who was the first person you disclosed it to?
Who was the first person I disclosed it to? Or a friend on the internet. We were talking for ages and we were going to meet in Bali and we were being super flirty. And I used that as an opportunity to send a voice note and share that with him. Because I was like, I can't get to Bali and all of a sudden be in Bali and tell him, by the way, I know we've been talking for months and months and months, but just so you know. So he was the first person. And then the next person was a best friend.
How did you build up the courage to tell them? You would have been shitting bricks.
I was shitting bricks. And I started practicing. I started saying the word out loud. There was definitely a point in time where I was scared to say the word herpes. So I started practicing saying it and how I would say it to someone. Notice I never say I have herpes. I just say I test positive for it because I don't believe that I have it. It's not me. It's just something that I test positive for. It doesn't need to consume and control my life. But I just started sharing with friends. And once I shared with one friend and they met me with love and compassion. And typically what happens when you share the depth of your vulnerability with someone, they'll then share their vulnerability with you. And then your relationship deepens and becomes more connected. And that's what I started to notice. Like, oh, I shared it with Sarah and Sarah shared this with me. And now we have such a deeper relationship and more trust. Or I shared it with Alex and Alex shared this with me. And now we have deeper relationship and more trust. And I started to realize the people that love me only love me more when I share my vulnerability with them. So what's to say if based on results, the people that love me more, a future partner, if I was to share it with him, maybe I would share it, he would trust me and that would create deeper intimacy, deeper connection and more trust and love.
How did you make the next step the social media? Because that's a scary place, especially talking about stigmas like this.
So I was working with my coach, Preston Smiles, and I was still going through all my body image stuff. I was in a really bad place with it. It was consuming with me. And I was also really scared about the herpes stuff. And he gave me a challenge to start talking about my body image online. He gave me a 30-day challenge. And we were in a 6-month course, and it was a personal freedom total boot camp to really transform yourself from the inside out. And I said to myself, you know, at the end of this 6 months, I no longer am going to be addicted to external validation. At the end of this 6 months, I will no longer care. Your thought about me will no longer have more power over me than my thought about me. And I'll start to value myself for who I am, and I'm going to be a voice for my worth. And so I just set an internal goal. I was like, at the last day of this course, that's going to be my line in the sand, that I'm taking my power back and I'm going to share it. I'm going to say, I don't care anymore. I'm not willing to be a victim to this stigma, and I'm going to go online. And I sat on my balcony for a whole day crying. I didn't do it the day it finished because I mourned the death of my old self. I cried with my mobile phone in my hand and the live button. I was trying to go live on Facebook, and it just wouldn't let me push it. And I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried. And I realized the next day I was literally mourning the version of me that had lived for 30 years, caring so much what everyone else thought about her. And the next day I was like, that's it. I don't care who thinks what about me. My thoughts about me mean more, and I'm going to go live. And I did it.
What was the reaction you got?
So much support, heaps of Me Toos, loads of women sending me voice notes, just crying, saying, I can't believe that someone's finally a voice for me. So much acceptance, men offering to date me. I thought that my house was going to be graffitied. I remember seeing it like a meme on the Bell Tower Times of Sarah's got herpes, like spray painted on a wall. And I live on quite a popular street in Perth where a lot of people drive by. I was like, I'm going to have Rebecca's got herpes spray painted against my house. I'm going to have my car keyed. People are going to attack me. I had so many stories. My ego had created this huge event, and either people didn't care and they were like, oh, isn't it normal? Don't heaps of people have it? Or people were like, thank you. The response was beautiful. And since then I've had hundreds, if not thousands of women reach out to me all around the world sharing with me that I've supported them through whatever it is they're going and growing through.
Would you say receiving that positive feedback sparks something in you to, you know, that's the journey you now have to go on to crush the stigma around herpes?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I never say that I'm a herpes activist. I'm not by any means, but I know what a significant impact it's had on my life. I believe that there are suicide statistics attached to testing positive for the herpes virus. I didn't attempt, but I definitely considered it for the first 30 days when I found out. And I believe that there is suicide stats attached to the virus. So for me, it's definitely not the only thing I talk about, and something that has had such a profound effect on my life and is such a critical part of my awakening. That happened when I was 25, and now for 8 years, I've studied personal development, spiritual development. I've worked with so many different teachers and masters and plant medicines, all to have this holistic view of how to truly love and express myself from within and be a stand for my own worth. So I will continue to be a voice for it because I know it's important.
Yeah.
I know that there are women and men suffering, and that's why, even though it's not the only thing I ever talk about, I'll continue to talk about it because I won't let a 25-year-old version of me walk this world thinking that she's unworthy. I just won't let it happen.
That's amazing. Like, yes, you tested positive to it, but you didn't let it define who you are. You took ownership of it and acceptance of it. And now this is the path you're on, and it's amazing what you're doing.
Thank you.
It took a bit, but you got there.
Well, I think that's definitely it, right? I was with a client today, and she's amazing. She's like a younger version of me. She's 8 years younger than me. She also tests positive for the virus. She talks about it online. That was a part of her path that she really wanted to do. And she wants everything now. She wants her success now. She wants her, we froze for a bit. She wants everything now. She wants her sex now, success now. She wants all the clients now. She wants all the Instagram followers now. She wants everything now. She wants to heal her relationship with money and heal her relationship with men and like everything today. And that was just such an old version of me that wanted results instantly. Like I wanted to do the diet and look amazing in 6 weeks or 12 weeks or 16 weeks and heal and feel better and nothing else would ever be a problem. Whereas now I'm like, whoa, now I'm 33 and I'm like, oh my God, young Bek was such hard work and so unrealistic. She didn't think about the long vision. And transformation truly takes a lifetime. So like transformation can happen in a moment, and also it's a long game as well.
Yeah.
It's small, consistent daily habits. It's your thoughts that you have every single day. And it's really, transformation is a slow burn.
100%. Like, especially with my generation, we just want instant gratification. But
How old are you, Nick?
I'm 24.
Yeah, so you're 24.
Yeah. So we have this little device here where we can get anything within seconds, minutes, days, and we just get that instant gratification. And then when we're hit with a bit of resistance, we don't know how to handle it.
And that's the thing. That's what we get to build resilient, strong people. Like in the face of resistance, what can you do to break through? Like you get to ask, is the resistance a warning sign from the universe that's telling me no? Or is the resistance a beautiful tool from the universe telling me to work that muscle, whatever the muscle is? The energetic muscle, the muscle of confidence, the muscle of bravery, the muscle of using my voice, the muscle of resilience, the muscle of just getting through and knowing that you can. What muscle is it that you need to work, and working it?
Yeah. Resistance is always giving you a sign to go in either direction.
Exactly.
What would you say are some of the tools that kind of helped you become the woman you are today? You discussed an online course of Preston Smiles. What else was there?
So Preston Smiles is definitely my greatest master and coach and mentor. So I dedicate a lot of my business transformation, my personal transformation is really a testament to his work and his wife's work, Alexi Panos. I've worked in terms of a lot of forgiveness work with Miriam Brewer, another master coach, work with plant medicines. Ayahuasca has been and mushrooms have been a part of my healing journey, and it allowed me to explore my subconscious mind without me controlling it. And it really allowed me to get to the depths of my soul. And again, used consciously and not as a quick fix, but as something that allows me to experience more of me. I work with different distinctions like standards. I work with different tools like forgiveness and vulnerability. I work with tools. I learned to celebrate myself. That's been a big part of the work. Instead of allowing the inner mean girl and the inner critic to always tell me that I'm not doing good enough. Instead, I set myself up for success, and I'm always celebrating myself. I'm always in the subconscious mindset of I'm winning and I'm getting better every single day. So learning to reframe ineffective thoughts, ineffective belief systems, working on my unique life standards in terms of relationships, sex, money, food, fitness, family, friendship, working with standards has changed my life. And just surrounding myself with like-minded community.
I love your open mindset to trying all these different things, especially around, magic mushrooms and stuff like that. There's a bit of a stigma around all that stuff. That's something I would love to try in the future as well. But I love that you're open to trying all these things to better your life ultimately.
Yeah, I'm very, like I said, very pro holistic health, very pro natural health, and really open to trying things. I've checked with my body first. I never, like last year in 2020, every Monday, mushrooms, beach, meditating. This year, I'm like, every time I ask my body is like, not today, not today, not today. And so that's my invitation for people, is just like, check in, whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying. Even in terms of my fitness, sometimes I'm doing Pilates, sometimes I'm lifting weights, sometimes I'm doing cardio, sometimes I'm swimming, sometimes I'm bike riding. I ask my body what she wants, make sure I give her that versus just trying to tell her.
Yeah. I love that. And that's just being self-aware, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some words of wisdom you would give to someone that's tested positive and wants to disclose, but is, fearful or scared of judgment?
Know that your story about it is often the worst thing that can happen and never usually what happens. And when we give the person the opportunity to meet us with acceptance, we're faced off with acceptance. So give them that opportunity rather than just assume that you're not worthy of it. Start practicing with family and friends or trusted loved ones. And to anyone, whether you test positive for the virus or not, the avoidance of emotional pain only further manifests pain into your reality. So herpes is a sign. It's a symptom of something that's happening deep within you, some emotional pain or emotional trauma that's left unhealed. Herpes is not the problem. Herpes is a symptom. And if you're willing to, and I know if you've just found out, it might be deeply painful and hard to be like, what's it here to teach me? But once you've gotten through the first few months and you're willing to sit back and ask, like, what is this here to teach me? It can be one of your most profound teachers if you give it the ability and the choice. So start asking questions. Why did I manifest this on my life path? What is it here to teach me? What have I been avoiding?
That's a great piece of advice. And I love that you touch on, I guess, illnesses and diseases that come up in the body because there's something down deep that you're kind of pushing to the side and you're neglecting, and now it's showing up physically to actually give you a sign. And I guess it goes, there's a quote that life happens for you, not to you. Everything happens for a reason, and there's meaning behind everything that happens.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And actually, Louise Hay is one of my favorite teachers as well. I was obsessed for years, YouTubing her. I'd fall asleep to her voice every night. And she has the book, You Can Heal Your Life and You Can Heal Your Body. And if that's what you believe, like my belief system is I never get sick. My belief system is I don't need medication. My belief system is my body can heal itself. That's literally my belief system. I'm not saying that is universal truth for everyone, but it's definitely my truth and it works for me. So if you have something that's showing up in your life, like for some of my clients, say frequent herpes outbreaks, what is your belief system around getting sick and what is your belief system around healing? Because it's no coincidence for me that I never get sick and I test positive for a virus that I don't need medication for, because from a child, I have chosen I don't get sick, I don't need medication. So doctors, medication I know that's necessary for some people. It's a last resort for me because of the belief that I hold about it. So my invitation to everyone, whatever your beliefs are about anything in life, question them, ask yourself where they came from. Did they come from society, Instagram, your parents' parents, and ask do your beliefs support you to live the life that you're here to live? And if they don't, you get to start challenging them.
Yeah. It's crazy how powerful the mind is when you set these thoughts in your head. And, for you, I'm not going to get sick. You haven't got sick. And then it goes the opposite way. If people are like, oh, I'm going to get sick, or I'm going to break a leg or something like that. And then ultimately it happens to them. It's crazy how you manifest it in your own mind.
Well, exactly. It's really segueing all the way back to where we started. Remember in the start when I said to you, the girls used to scream at me that I'm disgusting and rank.
Yeah.
But I went and got a horror overseas boob job. Could be classed as disgusting and rank. I manifested a stigmatized STI on my path. Could be classed as disgusting and rank in some people's minds. I kept manifesting the very thing that I wanted to avoid because my belief system was, I didn't realize unconsciously, it was in the back of my mind, I'm disgusting, I'm rank, I must avoid being all of those things. And so I just kept manifesting onto my path exactly that belief until I decided to face off with it.
Yeah. And it can be very scary to face off with yourself.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why a lot of people, every day I have women reach out to me wanting to work every single day. Some start, some don't, because self-development is total self-responsibility, total self-ownership. Instead of me pointing the finger, it's that boyfriend's fault and that ex-boyfriend's fault and all the men, it's like, take those fingers back and start pointing at myself and be like, well, Rebecca's life is exactly the way it is based on Rebecca, not based on a mum or a dad or her parents' upbringing or my dad's money beliefs or my ex-boyfriend not pleasing me in bed or all the things that I could justify as to why my life is the way that it is.
Yeah.
And so taking ownership of your life when you're not happy with it, that's scary. It's very easy to blame other people. Projection and blame is easy. Ownership is challenging and confronting, as if I can say the F word, all fuck. It's scary to look at yourself and say, I'm the reason my life's the way that it is. But the most empowering thing you can do from that place is be like, and that's why I'm going to be the reason for my positive change.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't play victim. And because it's, as you said, it's so bloody easy. And I guess as humans, we naturally look to blame other people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does life look like for you now? You said you're coaching other women, and I seen on your Instagram nude yoga. What is all that about?
So prior to COVID happening, I became a naked awakening facilitator, which was one of the beautiful tools that I used as well to support me in my body image journey. So I would attend these amazing naked yoga workshops with one of my mentors and friends, Rosie Rees, where women would come in sister circle, and we would express our vulnerability, and we would also derobe and do a yoga practice together. And it's a really empowering, liberating journey. And so I became a facilitator of that practice to incorporate in my work as well.
How popular is it?
So popular.
Yeah, really?
Really, yep, so popular. Because women, body image, no matter how body image has affected you, no matter what you look like. And that's the thing as well. Women think I have women say to me, it's okay for you to talk about herpes on the internet, you're beautiful. Or how can you have body image problems? You have a beautiful body. But it rarely, or actually doesn't have anything to do with the way that you look. We even dissected that when I weighed 47 kilos, I still thought I was fat. It's everything to do with our beliefs around it. So nude yoga is an opportunity for women to explore their bodies, express themselves, witness other women express their vulnerability, and realize that they're not alone with their thoughts. That's the biggest trick of the ego. I'm the only one. No one will ever accept me. I'm the only woman who tests positive for herpes. I'm the only woman that goes through this body image stuff. When every single person is going through something. And when you're put in that kind of environment, closed or not, any kind of personal development, when you see other women sharing what you experience, you all of a sudden realize that you're not alone, you're not so awful, you're not the only one, and that there is a way out from wherever you are.
That's amazing. Hats off to all the women that go, because I know it would take a lot of courage for them to even turn up there, let alone get their kid off.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
What are your goals for the future? Where are you looking to take all this?
I really feel my business really blew up in a year, my coaching business, because I think God, universe, source just wrote it as handwritten on my soul to do this work. And I'm never really attached to long-term visions, but the most fulfilling life where I can impact as many women to activate their unique voice and live their most fully expressed lives, while I continue to do the same for myself, whilst falling madly in love. That's been one of my goals to achieve by age 35, and create a beautiful life with Jake, and love my family, and just surf and see people around me feel liberated and free.
That's amazing. And by the sounds of it, everything's starting to fall into place.
Yeah, it really has. This past year and a half has definitely been one of the greatest year and a halves of my life, where just everything, I think when you're in alignment, when you're in flow, just things just start happening in the most beautiful, magical way. And I know there was a version of me that would have prayed for everything that she has now. And I think I just want to remind any woman that's listening to this and hearing any of themselves in my journey that it is possible. If it's possible for one person, it's possible for you. If someone can break through whatever it is you're going and growing through, you can break through it too. No human is any different. I'm not special. I don't have magic powers. I use the tools. I activated my courage, and I decided to be bigger than the stigma. And if I can do it, anyone can do it.
100% right on the money there. Let me finish off with 2 last questions. How do you define success?
How do I define success? For me, success and fulfillment, I need to experience fulfillment in my everyday. If I'm experiencing fulfillment, if I'm experiencing growth, if I'm experiencing creativity, and if I'm experiencing some kind of pleasure, they're like my 4 pillars of success. And well, actually 5, let's throw in abundance: growth, creativity, pleasure, abundance, fulfillment. If I'm experiencing those 5 things, they're probably my 5 pillars. They are my 5 pillars. If I think about it, that would, to me, would be a beautiful, successful day. And if I started achieving and experiencing all of those feelings in my everyday, to whatever degree, fulfillment doesn't need to be, I made $1 million. It can be, I had this little kid on my street and he was selling mandarins and he sat there all day. And I was so impressed by him. And when I drove past, I gave him my coins in my center console. And his dad, a few months later, came up to me. He's like, "You're that woman that gave my son like $6. And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "My son was happy for weeks and weeks and weeks." Because I just thought, I was so impressed for him sitting there all day in the sun, just like doing his little business, selling mandarins for 10 cents. And I thought, what a kid. Can't wait to see what you create when you're older. That feeling for me was the same amount of fulfillment as when one of my clients has a huge breakthrough. I'm not attached to what it looks like, but I love the feeling. It's a feeling for me.
That's amazing. And last question, when your time's up on this earth, what would you like to be remembered for?
Activating women's voices, being unapologetic, and just owning my power.
Fuck yeah.
Being a stand, being the person willing to go first, being the person willing to say the scary thing. Leaders go first, and it's always scary. And then once you go first, hundreds of people follow you and jump too. But the leader has to go first. And I just want to be remembered for that. The woman that was brave enough to activate her voice in the face of fear, which inspired others to do the same.
Amazing. And you're well on the path of doing that. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing this story. I've really appreciated it. I'm super grateful.
Thank you so much. And I'm grateful for you. I love what your podcast stands for. I think it's incredible. And I love your podcast setup.
Thank you. For all the listeners, where's the best place to find you on social media?
So you can find me, Bek Antonucci, on any platform, but Instagram is where I'm most active and alive. You'll get the quickest response from me.
Awesome. I'll put all the links in the description. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Follow Bek. She's doing amazing things. See you guys in the next episode. Cheers.